I want to start today by thanking some people that have supported the podcast with their finances. I want to thank Samuel Olajide and also thank Temitope, who is one of my mentees, for their kind contribution towards this podcast, their show of support and encouragement. I want to thank them for taking out of their means to help me to continue to put out this podcast for people to benefit from. And once again, I want to say that if you are led, if you feel led in your heart to support this podcast in any way, please reach out to me. I'll put up my number again, +234, which is the Nigeria code, 80232 Please send me a WhatsApp message telling me how you want to support the podcast to allow the message to continue to go out there and for someone out there to find hope and some direction. So I want to thank the people that have taken out from their means to support the work I'm doing with the podcast. And so if you feel led in any way and you feel you want to support the podcast, it might be on a weekly basis, it might be on a monthly basis, it might be on a yearly basis, depending on what you feel led to do. It can even be a one-time support. It will be greatly appreciated. And so thank you very much, Temitope, and thank you very much, Olajide Samuel. Today, I want to address something which I think is very important. I have people from time to time reach out to me asking me to share my resources with them. And when I say resources, I mean they reach out to me and say, "Oh, sir, can you share the books you are reading with us? I listen to your podcast a lot and I get a lot of insight. You have a lot of discernment, a lot of wisdom. And can you just share the books you are reading? Can you share the podcasts you listen to or the YouTube channel you get some of this insight from, or some of the trainings that you've done or certifications? Can you share some of your resources?" Now, when people ask me this question and have this request, I would say I have two reactions to them. Number one, I feel very humbled that people would think I'm that much of an intellectual, that I read so much and I get a lot from reading. And also, it also sounds very humbling because I know I do not have that many external resources. And a lot of what you get me talk about on the podcast are not things I get from books. A lot of them are not things I get from books. They're not things I get from podcasts. I hardly listen to podcasts, to be honest with you. It sounds funny. I have a podcast, but I hardly listen to podcasts. I cannot name one podcast that I am devoted to. I might stumble on a podcast, but I hardly listen to it. I hardly spend my time on podcast platforms like Spotify. I don't really spend my time there. I just put up my podcast and I leave. So I don't follow any particular podcast. I don't do trainings. I can't remember the last time I signed up for a training or a course on anything that has to do with speaking or that has to do with teaching or that's giving me some type of insight. I hardly sign up for trainings or courses. So when people ask me these questions, I don't have much to share. And so if you've asked me that question in the past and I tell you I don't have much to share, don't think I'm trying to hoard anything, because I do not believe in hoarding. I believe in giving freely. It has been my ethos for a while now to give freely. And I give freely for one reason, because I realize how much I have been given freely. And this brings me to what I want to talk about today. The fact that I am gifted and not invested. I'll say it again. With what I do and how I teach and whatever discernment or level of wisdom that you perceive me to have, I do not get it by investing in books or courses or programs or things like that. It is a gift I have. It is a gift that God has given to me. I am more gifted than invested. I am more gifted with what I do than invested in it. I do not have a large library. And I say it again, I am not an intellectual. I'm not someone with a lot of degrees. I struggled in school. I'm not one of those people. I don't have a PhD in anything. I do not study psychology or theology or philosophy. A lot of what I share are things that God has gifted me with. And I think it's important to state this because it makes a world of difference. Whether you are invested or you are gifted. I have no problem with being invested. But what I'm trying to say is that your expression in life, what I truly believe, and I could be wrong, but then this is how I see it. If you are going to do anything in life, make sure it's something you are more gifted in than invested. If I was going to put a percentage to it, make sure that you are 80% gifted and 20% invested. And I will tell you why. Because people that are invested always want to recoup what they've spent in investment. Investment always asks for a return. Investors will always ask for a return. I would have you know this. Investors would always ask for a return. So when you are invested in something, highly invested, before you know it, your positioning would be to get a return on every expression of that thing. People ask me, why don't you sell this thing? Why don't you sell what you teach? Because I've been freely given. I have no fear of emptiness when it comes to insight and discernment and understanding of issues. No fear of emptiness at all. I have an ocean, a wellspring, an oasis of discernment within me. I didn't dig it up. It was given to me like that. I would even have you know that a lot of times it disturbs me. And what I mean by this is that I don't go searching for insight. When people ask me questions, I don't go researching. The answer wells up from within me. It is a gift I have. It is a gift. And what I mean by it disturbs me is sometimes I cannot sleep because a particular insight comes to me while I am sleeping. So even while I am sleeping, God is replenishing my gift of insight. It can never finish. So a lot of times, what you do not understand is that giving it off unburdens me. I use this example. A woman who gives birth to a child doesn't have to try to produce milk. The milk is produced by nature in her. It is in her very body. Immediately that child comes out of her, she begins to have the ability to produce milk. To the point whereby she needs the child to relieve her of that milk, or else she becomes engorged and uncomfortable. And before you know it, if a child doesn't take that milk from her breast that has been given to her abundantly, she will begin to develop a fever. And that's exactly how it is for me. That's why I entertain questions. I tell people, ask me questions. I just put out my WhatsApp number there. It's not just for if you want to support the podcast, it's also for if you have questions. If you have questions, ask me questions. Because a lot of times I get engorged with insight. It's not something I try to do. It is something I do. It is something I was made to do. That is why I'm able to give it freely. The ocean gives water freely. Where the water comes from every single time, we do not know. We just know that it's never empty. That is how the gift of God works. If you ask my wife, and I believe my wife knows me more than any other human being on earth at the moment, she doesn't know where I get a lot of these things from. The other day we were having a conversation as well. Tola, I know you don't spend that much time reading. Even though you read from time to time, I cannot say you read every time. And I know that you don't attend courses because I'm in the same house with you. So sometimes I don't know where you get these things from or how you get them. This is someone that lives with me. She knows me. I spend a lot of time watching TV. I spend a lot of time sleeping. I spend a lot of time playing with my animals. I do not spend that much time intellectualizing. But you see, because it's a gift from God, even when I watch TV, I would find insight. When I sleep, I would find insight. When I play with my animals and I go for a walk, I would find insight. Give me an orange and I will find insight. Leave me in a dark room and I will find insight in that darkness. It is a gift. So when people ask me, share my books, I do not share books. I can share one or two, but I can't share that many because they do not come from books. I am gifted and not invested. And because of that, I am free with what I have. I say this because the world is teaching us differently. It's teaching us to invest our gifts. It teaches us to invest our gifts. So I see people holding on to their gifts and saying, I will not express my gift until I am paid. I will not express till I am paid. It might sound wise. It might sound business savvy. But it always leads to a mess. It always leads to a mess. It always brings unfulfillment and conflict. At this time, as I make this podcast, you see, there's this conflict between some gospel artists and their record labels. And you can see gifted people that have decided to only exchange their gift for a price. So they have people that manage their gift for them, in the sense that the people now act as a barrier between their expression and their gift and the people that God has sent them to express their gift. So they say this person will not come, a gospel musician will not come to sing until they get a particular figure in the bank. At first, it starts out good, but in the long run, a lot of it ends up in very ugly court settlement or court battles. It's not just here, it's everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world, where people decide that their gift should be invested and there should be a recouping on what they've been given freely, it always ends up ugly. Then the gift is controlled by contracts and restrictions. It's a dangerous thing. This is where people's gifts become a curse. The gift is given to us freely, so we can give freely. The gift is given to us freely, so we can give freely. I say this for two reasons. So that the person who is gifted realizes that you have an obligation to give freely. You have an obligation to give freely. And as you give freely, like Jesus told his disciples when he sent them out, he said, freely you have been given, freely give. And he says, as you give freely, people will take care of your needs. People will support you. People will feed you. People will house you. Your clothes will not run out. Your clothes will not turn to rags. Your sandals will be renewed. But you must give freely as you have been freely given. If you're out there right now, you have a gift. You have something within you. Do not restrict it. Do not restrict it based on what people are willing to pay for it. You will find people that will pay for it, but never restrict it by what people are willing to pay for it. I teach every day on my podcast. But yes, I do have people that invite me to speak and they are willing to pay. But I never ever position myself in a way where I would say, no, I would stop this giving freely because I know how incredible my gift is. I have been given freely. I am gifted. And that's why I can give freely. I'm not invested. There's a lot of things that we are blessed with that have been given to us freely. God gives it to us freely so that we can bless people with it. You see, there are two different types of beautiful women. There are beautiful women that are naturally beautiful. Naturally. Their skin is naturally beautiful. Their hair is naturally beautiful. Everything about them is naturally beautiful. And then you have the people that are not naturally beautiful, that are invested in their own beauty. The difference usually is that the women that are invested would always tell you the type of men that deserve to enjoy their beauty. They will tell you, do you know how much it takes to keep this skin the way it is? Do you know how much I spend on this hair? Do you know how much I spend on these nails? Do you know how much I spend to make this body this shape? Only somebody who can help me maintain this investment is worthy of having it. A naturally beautiful woman doesn't make such statements. But when you look at the type of relationships both these women go into, they are very different. And you realize that a lot of the people that end up in relationships that they might end up regretting, are normally the ones that want to recoup their investment. And then they end up with men that treat them badly, that go out and cheat, that have unnatural sexual urges. And then all you hear are regrets. But because you were more invested than gifted, you wanted to recoup on your investment. And so you did not look with your spiritual eyes. You looked with your tactical eyes to who deserved that beauty. Beauty is a gift. When you read in the Bible, there's a queen called Esther. She was beautiful, but the beauty was given so that she can help free a nation. She can help deliver her people in a time of danger, not so that she could afford better body cream or better beauty routine. She was gifted so that she could give freely. I want to encourage everyone. The most important thing you should find is that area in which God has gifted you. Find your area of gifting. We have too many people out there covetous of other people's gifting. And because they are covetous, what happens a lot of times is they try to invest to get other people's natural gifts. And when they get it by some means, they get it a lesser degree. What they try to do, number one, is hoard it. And number two, is sell it for very high. Because it's not natural. I encourage everyone to find that thing that they have. That thing that God has given you. That thing that pursues you rather than you pursuing it. That thing that overflows to the point of it engorging you. Find it. That is your area of gifting, and share it. Everybody has it, but we have it to give, not particularly to sell. The capitalist Western world has taught us to sell our gifts. But when you think about it, how much good has it done for the Western society? It has made them a bunch of hedonistic people that are tied and addicted to their own pleasures. The worst vices are found in such societies. Their children have become their enemies. They've become warped with warped values, if you can call them values. We are given what we are given to add to society. Everybody ought to share their gifts. As I said, I'm gifted with insight, with discernment, with wisdom. Everybody has it to some degree, but I have it to an exceptional degree. And I say that with all humility because I know I have it. But then I have it to help people. You have something that you're meant to use to help people. Some people have the gift of beauty. Some people have the gift of strength. Some people have the gift of organization. Some people have the gift of money. Whatever they touch, they can make money easily. It has nothing to do with investment. Whatever they touch, they can make money very easily. You must know what is yours and stop coveting other people's own. And we are meant to give what we have freely. That's how we build a strong society. Find your place of gifting. Let it be stronger than your place of investment. Be more gifted than invested. And then you would find your true identity. You will find your place in this world. You will find your place of true honor. You will not have to struggle for honor. You will not have to struggle for respect. You will not have to struggle for position. You will not have to compete with people. You will not have to worry of running dry. Find your place of gifting. Be more gifted than invested. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.